Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of the EGlaze Chronicles. I'm your host, EGlaze, and this is the 57th edition. And this is a special one because everybody say, why 57? That was my college football number and my high school football number. So this number is special to me. And when you have a big number, you have to have a special guest. And we have Jovita Moore, who's, even though she's originally from New York, she's ATLian now. We've deemed her as ATLian. So thank you so much, Jovita, for taking the time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You said this is your 57th show?
So I'm sorry, okay? I just froze up a little bit.
Yeah, you did. So
you
this is your 57th show?
57th, yes. I know. I don't. Okay. With stuff like this happening, I don't realize it sometimes. But let me start with this, Jovita.
I don't know how special I am if you waited for 56 shows to ask me to be on.
I was nervous. I was a little nervous, so I just wanted to see. I was like, I hope she'll come on. So I was a little nervous. So let me ask you this. 2020 has been weird. We know that. We understand with the pandemic and all that going on. But I also have a lot of friends who are 2020 parents. And what I mean by that is their child graduated in 2020 in high school. And you were one of those 2020 parents. What did this for you? I know we all look forward to graduation. But for you, I know your child thinks one thing, but as a parent, did you feel like something wasn't there? Like you've been waiting for this all this time and then 2020 happened? What was it like for you?
Absolutely. It was very disappointing is what it was like. You build up to this, everything you talk from the time your kid starts pre-K or even daycare, right? You're just thinking about that money shot of them walking across the stage with their diploma, and everything you do every single day is getting up, going to school. And you tell your kids that this is important and you need to do this, and you push, and especially if you pay tuition. I was really disappointed because you want that ceremony, you want that tradition, you want that pomp and circumstance. Every parent wants to see their kid walk across that stage because at least, for 18 years, you did something, you made something happen in their lives. Right. And so, yeah, it's just as big of a deal for the parents as it is for the kids. And I was definitely disappointed when we couldn't get it when it was scheduled to happen. It was going to be Memorial Day weekend. I had people coming into town, the catering menu was already set. There were so many things that was going to happen that weekend, and all of it just went right out the window. Everything got canceled, and we had to punt.
Yeah. And I looked at your picture. I was like, that picture looks like it would have been more, but you were like, hey, she graduated. Yeah, we had a little ceremony. So, yeah, hey. But I could just tell because I have friends that were like you said, 18 years I've been waiting for this day. I put in that extra work. I got up every morning. I did this. I dropped off, and it just sums up 2020, just to be honest with you. And now, out of all the things you've covered and all the things that you report, 2020, what's been the most shocking thing about this year? I know it's a lot of things, but what's been the most shocking for you?
I think maybe the most shocking, I don't know that anything has shocked me this year now, but I will say, honestly, the most shocking, really, it starts with the death of Kobe Bryant, right? That was shocking. I think all of us were shocked on that Sunday afternoon when we heard that Kobe had died in that helicopter crash. But then I think maybe the next most shocking thing was when we were told to stay home and everything shut down. And there were days I worked from the studio every single day, right? I've never worked from home. But what was shocking to me was after that, kind of the fact that people listened, but also I'd be on the highway and I might be the only car I saw for miles. And so in a lot of ways, that was shocking that it was real, that this was really happening. Like this city was shut down and people were not out and about. Nothing was happening. Things were closed for the most part. But it's almost like anything else hasn't really been that shocking. A couple of things have been a little crazy, a little disappointing. But I think the most stunning thing of this year was the death of Kobe Bryant, honestly. And then because it was sudden and it was tragic and it was completely unexpected, we never thought we'd hear that. And then just parts of the pandemic have just been kind of shocking. But now at this point, it's August, and anything that happens, I'm like, it's 2020, of course.
Right, right. Did you make that personal choice to work in the studio every day, or was it something that you agreed upon? Because a lot of people were working from home, but you're right. Every day we saw you was in the studio, either by yourself or you're separated from your co-host. But was that a personal decision, or was that you guys decided to do that?
No, it wasn't a personal decision. Management decided to do that from the very beginning. We wanted to preserve our look and, our brand and our style and everything that makes us WSB, right, to all of you and makes all of you watch. So we wanted to preserve that as much as possible. And basically the deal was, we're going to separate all the anchors. So we are separated. So when you see us, we're in boxes on your screen, like you and I are right now, but we are physically separated in the building. And we have rules in the building. We have to wear masks. And so the management made that decision that we would stay physically separated. And as long as we weren't sick, we were able to come in the building. And during this pandemic, especially during the height of it, March, April, May, Emmanuel, there were times when there were as few as 6 people in this entire building. So it is basically, and it still remains now in August. We loosened up just a little in June. And when I say loosen up, I mean like maybe 2, 4, 5 people were allowed in. But out of the couple of hundred that work in this building, we've seen as few as 6 in here. And really, if you don't have anything to do with the direct anchoring of this newscast and putting this newscast on the air, meaning you've got to push a button or you've got to sit there and talk, then you're not really allowed in the building right now. We've just allowed a few producers to come in. Everyone else is working from home. All of the reporters that you see out in the street, they have not stepped foot in this building since March. Badges have been turned off. Photographers stay out of the building. Everyone has stayed out of the building. And that was agreed upon. And that was the rule from management. And we all agreed to adhere to it.
Wow. So they shut down badges. They made sure this is going to be. But let me ask you this. Did you feel, and I always want to ask this too, you've been here, you've been in Atlanta, you've been doing this for a while now. We've been all watching you. Did you feel a responsibility? Do you feel a responsibility that you must be present in these moments to make sure you're giving the news, especially since you're on a local station in the country? But do you feel a little pressure on yourself that I have to be involved, I have to tell the news? People are expecting Jovita to be there to do this?
Yes. Short answer, yes. And then especially in the very beginning, yes, because it was so new, things were changing. So much information was coming in, and it was none of us had ever lived through this before. It's historic for us to be able to broadcast it and to be able to tell that story and witness the history that's happening. So for those reasons, it was just, you wanted to be here and you wanted to be a part of it. But I tell you what, every single time I get a day off, I take it because it's heavy. It's a lot. It's a lot of news. It's a lot of information. There's a lot going on and we're all impacted by it, right? And we're impacted at home. We're impacted at work, and our families are impacted by this and our neighbors. So it's a heavy, topic to cover every single day in and day out. So when I do get a break and I get a day off, I absolutely take it.
And you bring up an interesting point. I see a commercial that y'all are doing now where you're talking about making sure that y'all get the story out about the pandemic, because you say I'm a mother and I have to keep up with these things. As a Jovita, more the family person, how have you been trying to make sure that your children are safe and, going to college and one in school and all of that in high school? All this going on. We see what's happening in certain northern counties with this and all this. How are you trying to make sure you keep yourself and your family safe during all of this?
Well, I've been very good because I know that it's not just about me, but it is about those people around me, right? So and it's also about my coworkers. So I've kept a really small bubble for most of this time. We didn't have anyone in the house maybe until June, so it was just me and the kids from March, April, and May. And maybe in June, I allowed like one friend to come over of the kids. one friend of mine to come over, and then even then we're sitting on the patio, we're sitting outside. So I've been as diligent as possible to make sure that I don't get sick. And then that way, so my kids are protected too. And then so my co-anchors are protected. So when I come into this building, I'm not doing something that's going to jeopardize their health and for them to take it back home to their family. So that's one thing. And we've all taken that very seriously. But of course, there were concerns. And I was thinking from the beginning, there's no way a pandemic isn't just going to come and go. Like, this is going to take a while for us to work through. So honestly, when school got canceled back in March, I said to my kids then, I don't think y'all are going to go back to school in the fall, because of course there needs to be a vaccine. There needs to be some safety measures in place. There needs to be a public health mandate almost before we can get back to normal. And I don't know that we're ever going to get back to normal. But months ago, I knew that, again, a pandemic is not just going to go away like that, and that we're going to be dealing with this for a while. And I told my kids then, just to prepare them, you'll be home. And so we've deferred my daughter's first semester at college. And then my son, DeKalb Schools decided to go virtual. So they start Monday and he'll be at the house, and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. You talk about so much going on this year. We talk about, of course, the riots and not just the riots. I don't want to just keep going to that. I want to talk about the protesting and the things of that nature. Just to see you see Atlanta do that. You've been around, you've seen Atlanta. Were you kind of surprised at some of the reaction in Atlanta, or was it just something that we feel was bubbling up and it was going to happen when you saw it?
A little bit of both. I mean, I was surprised that it happened the way it did and when it did and how it did. We were watching the news, and of course we'd seen it in other cities, right? That week, the week of Memorial Day after the death of George Floyd, we watched it happen in other cities. But it was kind of surprising because didn't really expect it to happen here. Not to say that Atlanta is perfect, not to say that this police department is perfect in the city or even around the metro area. We know that every department has its bad apples, but it was surprising to see it pop off the way that it did. And when you're watching it live like that, and we had a certain perspective from the studio, we could only see what our cameras were showing us one at a time. We know that it was a very volatile situation down there by Centennial Park that night. But then also, remember, while we were focused on downtown Atlanta, we also had no idea what was happening up in Buckhead because DeKalb County had been called in. We didn't hear that scanner traffic. While Buckhead was being looted, all of the focus was still downtown. The fires had started later that night. Georgia Tech cars, I think, were set on fire. The structure inside the park was set on fire. So there was so much to watch down there. So that then when we hear about Buckhead happening, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, So it was surprising. And that's not to say that, again, we live in this perfect community where people are not frustrated and upset and just tired of the status quo. But it was, I think, surprising too, because so often, what do we say? Atlanta is the city too busy to hate, right? So we get this sense of everybody's okay here, or things are okay here, or like the mayor said that night, this is not the Atlanta way. We're used to doing certain things and seeing things happen a certain way in the city because that's just how it's always been, thanks to people like Dr. King and Reverend Hosea Williams and Reverend Joseph Lowry. So for years, we've seen things happen a certain way in this city. And so when it didn't happen the way that we were seeing it happen, yes, that was shocking. That was shocking. And we were really surprised in the newsroom and on at night by what we were seeing.
You brought it up, and I was going to go to that next question. Did you have a chance to? This year it was tough. We talked about COVID. We also lost some civil rights giants this year, from Reverend Lowry to C.T. Vivian and, of course, John Lewis. Did you ever? I know you probably had a chance to meet all of them and interview them and talk to them. And just, that they were heroes of mine. So I know in the city of Atlanta they're heroes, and the country they're heroes. You ever had a chance to talk to each one of them? And what are your thoughts about all three of them?
I met all of them. I worked with all of them. I did stories on all of them. So yeah, it was but Reverend Lowry and CT Vivian especially, they were old men who had been here and had great lives, right? But it was still the kind of thing you don't expect it to happen. You're never anticipating someone's death. So we were still, and I was still just as shocked that it would happen and that it would happen in 2020. And even with a long life, 95 years old, 90 years old, when it happens, it's still almost like it's too soon. You're not ready for
Right.
them to just because they were great leaders and they're fathers, and they have families, and that there are people who have been with them and surrounding them and loving on them for years, even though they weren't in the public eye, especially those two men, because they were getting up in age and they weren't able to just get around and do what they would normally do. And then, of course, when we heard about Congressman Lewis, when he announced that he was battling cancer, you never want to think about the end, right? But you knew that it would come one day. But that was still just as shocking that he would succumb to cancer on the same day that we learned about the death of Reverend Vivian. So, but yes, I had met all three of them, done stories with them, sat in each one of their homes, Congressman Lewis's office in DC, and CT Vivian's home, and his. I just remember that man had books everywhere. He has more books, I know, than a small city's library. I know he does. And then I've been in the home of Reverend Lowry as well. I'm very grateful and fortunate to have those experiences. But they were all great people. And I saw Reverend Lowry a couple of years ago. I just went by the house one day. There was no work agenda. There was nothing. I just went by the house one day to see him, and that was a couple of years ago, and just sat in the living room with him and talked, and well, listen, I didn't do much talking. He did all the talking, and I just listened. But it was an opportunity to sit and just see him, one last time. And so I have great memories of them, and history shows they were all awesome men.
Very, very, very awesome, man. You how do you with so much news going on? We just got through yesterday. You did some extended with the elections, the runoff in the election year 2020. When you wake up every morning, are you like, all right, what's going on today? Are you looking forward to the day, or are you just like, what's going on? Or I know you try. I mean, it's just so much going on. How do you approach each day now with the way news has been happening back to back to back?
That's a very good question. And just one day last week, I said to somebody, I was texting with a friend, I said, never a dull moment. I mean, that's how this year has been, right? We can't get a day off from work because it's just been so crazy with something happening all the time. So let alone, not only are we dealing with a pandemic and reporting every single aspect of that and how it's affecting our lives. But then when you have the other stuff, that would be sort of regular news, right? So the regular news keeps happening. So I tell you, I get up every day and I just kind of, I say prayer several times a day, in the morning, at night, midday, and I just get up and say a little prayer and just ask God to be with me, give me some patience, give me some discernment, and definitely, guide me and please stay with me, stay with me today, because you really don't know what's going to happen, and that's probably good advice for anybody because we never know what happens once we step out that door and get in the world. But especially with the way this year has been and just the way, and it's so for me it's work, and you just never know what your work day is going to bring, and like you've seen, you start off one way in the at 5 o'clock, and you could be somewhere completely different by 6:30. So that's the theme of this year, apparently.
I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at the news like, hope nothing don't happen between 6 and 7. So you have to be like, hey man, we're gonna have to reschedule because I guess we're gonna be going a little while today because it's how it's been all, it's been that way, and that's how it's been.
That's right.
Going back to you in your career, when you first took over, we talked about when you first came on the Crush a while back, taking over and putting your own stamp in. I mean, you're Jovita Moore now. You went after Monica, and then everybody like, well, who is this? Who is this at 5 o'clock, Jovita? But you put your stamp on. People trust you now. What is it that you want people to see when they see a Jovita Moore newscast? What do you want people to get from it every day once you sign off and we say thanks for looking at Channel 2 News? What do you want people to see, and what you want them to have gotten from that newscast?
That's a really good question. And how would I how would I answer that? I think first of all, what I want them to come away with, besides some, some knowledge and some information, I hope they feel like they just, maybe had a conversation or a phone call with a friend of theirs, right? Someone who they can trust, someone that they know is that they consider credible, and somebody who they can watch and sort of understand, and also, feel like, oh, she's talking to me, she's telling me what I need to know.
Right.
Local news is very important right now. We know that, right? You have to be able to turn on the local news and feel a sense of trust and credibility and familiarity with the people who you watch. And that's what I really hope people come away with every single day. New information, sure. Something that's going to help them somehow in their life, absolutely. But also, I hope that they leave with a sense of comfort, knowing that they just, saw one of their friends, who gave them some information that they needed.
Is there anything else that you in your career that you want to accomplish or you want to do? I mean, you're doing. We don't want you to leave. We're not talking about that. You got plenty of time to do that. But I mean, is there anything else you see and you say, I haven't done this yet. I want to do this. Or I haven't. I mean, you win in Emmys all the time. You got awards. You got this. You got #1 show. Is there anything that you're like, I haven't done this yet? It's funny. I want to say this. Last time we talked, you had the hair. Now we talking. I see you went with the short hair. So, it changes and things like that. But anything that you still want to do or out there that you want to grasp?
Yeah, something I still, very, very simple question. Something I still want to do is interview Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. I did not get an opportunity to interview him while he was president. I covered the inauguration when he was, inaugurated the first time, but I did not ever get a chance to meet him and interview him, and I would love to do that still. And now I'm adding Kamala Harris to my list, because I would like to be able to sit down and interview her as well. Michelle Obama, of course, would be great as well, because I would want to talk. And I've never interviewed Oprah. I would love to sit down and talk with Oprah too. So
Really?
I know. So that's just a few people, as far as stuff that I would still like to do. But other than that, there's nothing else. WSB is home, and this is where I plan to stay until I retire. So there's not like another station or even network that I would want to go to, because Atlanta is also home, and I really don't want to leave the city. So I wouldn't want to go work in New York or someplace else. So the thing I still want to do are those interviews.
So those interviews. How do your children see you? Do they just see you as mom, or do they see this figure in Atlanta? Everybody say, "Oh, that's mom." I'm tired of hearing about mom. I see her every day. It's just like regular thing for them. But do they see you as they grow older and they are seeing, and they're going into their own lives and growing into their own ways? How do they see you, and do they ask for advice, or they just be like, "Look, mom, I'm doing my own thing right now"?
I mean, they're definitely aware, right, of who I am and what I do, but they never turn on the TV to watch. I've got to. If I don't turn on the television, they're not going to be watching, because they're always on this. They're on their phone, they're on their laptop, they're watching other stuff. They're watching other channels that I'm not going to mention. So I have to turn to channel 2 in order for them to watch TV. And it's funny, because what will happen is they'll see like a promo run and they'll be like, "Oh, look at you," and I'm just like, "What do you think I do all day?" But I know, I have to say that I don't think they care what I do. Oftentimes, if I might appear a little distracted at 5 and 6, it's probably because one of them has texted me, because they don't really care what time it is. They're not checking. And they'll text me with a question like, "Can I do this?" or "Can I go to so-and-so's house?" or blah, 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 whatever the question is. And I'm like, "Really? Do we have to talk about this right now?" So yeah, they really don't care what I do.
I'm handing out this hot news right now. Can you wait till I finish? Let me get this hot news out, and then we'll check to see if you can go to somebody's house. So that's interesting. That's really
I think they're typical teenagers, though, where it is, it's all about them, right? Teenagers only think about themselves until they get older. But, and I think a lot of it is just that way. They're just thinking about themselves. They want what they want when they want it. So, they're going to call me up and it's just like, can you bring me some McDonald's on the way home? Or, can you do this? And I'm like, okay, it's 6:05. Call me at 7 o'clock. Don't call me right now. So, yeah, they don't.
Can
they
I
don't
finish this?
really
Can I finish this first? When you look at the time, that's funny. How would you rate your social media game?
Oh, it can be better. It's okay, but it can be better. I don't know. It's one of those things, honestly, a lot about social media. I just do for work, and I do it because I have to. I don't necessarily enjoy it all the time, but I'm not one of those people constantly like looking for content and adding content and let's create content. That's not me at all. Like you have to poke me and prod me and remind me, put something on Instagram, put something on Facebook. And I haven't even posted on Facebook today. And I'm really surprised that I didn't get an email either from someone telling me to post on Facebook because we have people here who do that. But so it's I don't know. I don't. You know what? I don't measure my life or my success by my social media game. So I mean, it could be better, of course, but I don't really care.
Yeah. Do you? That's funny you say that because everybody else says we're such in a like world. Everybody. Did somebody retweet me? Did somebody like that? And you're like, I mean, I do it, but I would prefer not to. But how do you when it's so hot like it is now? And I mean, hot as in the climate, this political climate, this pandemic, and all that. How does Jovita get away? How does Jovita just? You know what? Like you say, you take a day off, you're going to take your day off. You're going to take your weekend off. How do you just, shut it down? How you shut it down? How you get yourself together?
Yep. So the first thing I do is don't touch that phone. That's the first thing I do. Don't look at it. Don't answer it. Don't read the emails. Don't answer the emails because it can all wait. Or guess what? It'll be taken care of by somebody else. I don't have to do it. So that's one of the first things. I have to just disconnect, right? So if you have to physically unplug from that phone, do it. I've spent a lot of time, on my patio and just laying out there on the back deck and not doing anything. I've spent a lot of time with the TV off, especially during this pandemic. Like once I get through Monday through Friday, I'm not really watching on the weekends anymore because I just need that time to kind of detox and my brain and my spirit, and just get it out of my system for a couple of hours. So that kind of stuff. If I need to take a drive, I've done that as well. Drive to the coast, drive to the mountains, get out of town, change the scenery. I've done that as well, just to, again, just clear my head and get away from the day-to-day stuff of news. Because it is, like I said, it's heavy. It's heavy, heavy, heavy.
Yeah, very heavy. All right, we'll wrap it up. I got two, I guess questions I have to ask. So I know you say you turn off TV, but have you binge watched anything during this pandemic? Binge watched anything that you just like? It was good to watch.
Ozark.
Okay.
Because Ozark dropped right around the time of the shutdown, right? Like mid-March. I probably watched Ozark in about 4 days. So I binged that. And then in the very beginning, I ended up getting caught with that daggone Tiger King. I should have never went down that rabbit hole. I was like, what are y'all doing? Why is everybody watching this? Oh my gosh. But I did watch it, and I half watched it. Like I would do other things. It would be on in the background and I would be doing other stuff. And binged. What else did I binge? Well, I watched Insecure. Watched that season that dropped. June maybe? When did Insecure drop? But I watched that and finished that. And then there was something else. I know there was a couple of other things that I watched. But I told myself I was going to go back and watch old stuff. Like I wanted to watch The Wire again. I don't know why The Wire is it's just as crazy as real life. But
yeah,
I wanted to go back and watch The Wire. And gosh, there was something else. But yeah. And I did a lot of cooking. I've done a
Awesome.
lot of cooking, and I need to stop. I need to stop cooking and eating. So yeah, that's how I spent the pandemic.
So has it been cooking dishes or have you tried new things? Have you been trying new things out, or have you just been cooking what you normally, what you know and stuff like that?
Kind of cooking what I know and then maybe adding to it. Like I cooked cornbread every Sunday for about 8 weeks. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, stop cooking cornbread. Like, just stop making cornbread. But I was cooking it all the time because it was just so good. And we would sit there and we would eat, me and the kids, we would eat the whole pan of cornbread, like just like that. But I tried a couple of new things. I started making smoothies every day. Just ridiculous, and like putting everything you can imagine in a smoothie just to see what it would taste like and what it would look like, what color it would be, just doing stuff like that. And I did it also to keep the kids occupied, because I'd have them like adding stuff in and just doing whatever we could just to pass the time before I came to work, just giving them like tasks to do. So yeah, spent a lot of time in the kitchen.
Well, I thank you so much, Jovita, for taking the time. Please tell people, if they don't know, just tell them where they can find you at. You may can get on social media, but where mainly can they find you at?
Everything has my name. So it's everything is Jovita Moore. So at Jovita Moore on Twitter, Jovita Moore on Instagram, Jovita Moore on Facebook. Just make sure it's the WSB looking Facebook and not another one. So it'll look like, anchor looking Jovita. And LinkedIn, Jovita Moore. So yeah. And that's it. No TikTok, no OnlyFans. Just the other ones.
I can see you TikToking though. We're gonna have to see when you can get into that TikTok. We're gonna check see if you can do something like that.
No, the president's going to shut down TikTok, so we won't have to worry about that.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot. You're right. So I need to get mine in before you do that. So I thank you so much. 5, 6, and 11, right? You do those 5, three on channel 2.
10 o'clock streaming, all your devices. If you have Apple TV, Roku, anywhere there's a WSB app, Amazon, Fire Stick, anywhere you can get an app, you can get a WSB app, and then we are streaming 10 o'clock every night.
There it is, everybody. Jovita Moore, we thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to ask about that TikTok. We're going to ask about it. Keep pushing.
Thanks for having me as your 57th guest.
Yeah. Thank you, Jovita. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night.